Hi, can I get a Big Mac meal with a large French fries and a chocolate shake? And also, can I get the spicy chicken McNugget?
What size would you like?
I'll get the 10-piece.
Would that be all for you today?
Yes.
So you have a Big Mac meal with a large chocolate shake and a 10-piece spicy nugget with mighty sauce and honey mustard.
Yes.
$14.96 is your total. Thank you.
Thank you. Dang, I just spent $15 at McDonald's. I'm so happy. God, I haven't had a Big Mac in so long. Probably 2 years I haven't had a Big Mac. Alright, spicy chicken nuggets with the mighty hot sauce. Oh dang. The mighty hot the mighty hot sauce is pretty mighty hot. This is what I need right now. Yo, what is up, my Nakama? Long time no see. Oh, it feels good to be back actually, making videos, having fun, because for the past 6 weeks, I've been grinding so much, studying 10 to 12 hours per day, studying for the beast known as USMLE Step 1. And to be honest, this was probably one of the worst times of my life. Like, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, because this amount of studying for this prolonged period of time is definitely not sustainable, and I'm just really glad it's over. Overall, I think I did well. I felt good taking the exam. I took it yesterday, February 1st. Today is February 2nd. And I kind of just crashed after the exam. Like, I was actually going to film this right after the exam, and then I realized I don't have the mental capacity to do anything besides eat and watch anime, which is exactly what I did. But in this video, while I still have this entire experience kind of fresh in my mind, I wanted to share it with you all. And I kind of wanted to share like how I approached step 1 and what exam day was actually like. So step 1 is 7 blocks total. Each block is 40 multiple choice questions, and you have an hour to do each block. And you also have like 45 minutes of break time. So overall it's an 8-hour exam. So it's a super long exam. And one of the things that I kind of trained myself to be comfortable with is to have enough endurance to kind of complete the exam and not kind of encounter like mental fatigue as I continue the blocks. So at first I was maybe only doing like 2 UWorld blocks per day, so that's 80 questions. And then I would do practice exams, which were about 4 blocks each. And then the last couple of weeks I upped my question numbers, and actually the Thursday before my exam, which was on Monday, I emulated a full-length USMLE practice test. So what I did was I did UWorld Sim 2, and then I followed that with the free USMLE 120, which is basically 3 40-block questions. So that was a total of 7 blocks, which is exactly how long step 1 is. And I felt good doing that exam. So I feel like I could confidently approach the amount of time it would take to take step 1 on the actual exam day. So surprisingly, on exam day, I had a really good night's rest of sleep, and I was really hyper-focused in the morning. I just had a piece of matzah. Shout out to my Jewish brothers and sisters. I drove to the exam site, and then I basically took 5-minute breaks in between each block, except after my 4th block, I took around a 15-minute break to like eat lunch, go to the bathroom and stuff. And then I actually accumulated so much break time before my last block that I had like 48 minutes of break time before going into my 7th block. So what I did was I took almost a 30-minute break. Like, I basically just chilled out, completely refocused before hitting that last block, because I didn't want to perform poorly on my last block, because I knew that I had just completed 6 blocks prior and I was probably super mentally fatigued. So I kind of wanted to feel like as though I was taking the test starting off. So I took a 30-minute break, which was super long. I thought I might as well use up my break time. And then I was so refreshed that I think I did really well on that last block, because it felt as though I was just entering the test exam again. So that was kind of a good decision, a good game day audible by my part. But yeah, overall, it was definitely a B-Civ exam. I would say that kind of everything that we learned in medical school was covered. Not too much was missed. I mean, obviously I can't share any specifics, but I feel like that our school prepared us well. And I mean, definitely doing Anki and Boards and Beyond and First Aid, all these prep materials was super helpful. Like, I don't even know how I would have approached all this material if I didn't have these resources, to be honest. Because if you're just learning this stuff like off a textbook without any practice questions or without spaced repetition, like, I feel like you wouldn't see all the material enough amount of times to do well on the exam. I mean, that's just my opinion. I know people took Step 1 years before any of these resources existed, but I think there is probably somewhat of a correlation between the national average moving up and the amount of resources that are available. I think it shows that these resources are effective because the national average, I think, has been slightly trending upwards throughout the years. But yeah, hopefully I get a little bit above national average, because for me it's like, if you don't know, I am interested in aerospace medicine, but at the same time I want to try and keep all options of specialties open. I feel like it does kind of shut down some opportunities that might not be available anymore. Like if I ever wanted to consider dermatology or orthopedics or something, like you need a really high step score for that. And I don't want to close those doors. So I don't know, we'll see. I have no idea when the exam results get released. I feel like they probably get released like 3 or 4 weeks after we take the exam. But hopefully I did well. I don't know. But yeah, I'm so glad this is all over. Like, I thought that I would be studying less than I did during this dedicated period than I did in med school, because the mentality that I had going into dedicated was that because we don't have any more classes anymore, I would have just a lot more time to do whatever, because if all I had to do was step studying and not have to worry about classes, then I felt like I would have a lot more free time on my hands. Boy, I was dead wrong, because there's so much material to review. Like, I would rather be in med school, like learning lectures, doing my in-house exams, than preparing for Step 1, because there's just an insane amount of material. And I mean, our school only gives us about 5 to 6 weeks of dedicated study time before our exam, which is definitely a good amount. Like, one thing that I would recommend is like not take too long during your dedicated period, because I was burning out after like the 3rd week, but you know, I still had a pretty strong mentality in the 4th and 5th weeks. But if I dragged this studying on for any longer, like my exam performance would have actually suffered. So you kind of want to time when you take your step exam to when you're gonna peak at your most optimal performance. And for some people that might be after like 4 weeks of studying, and if they continue studying more, they're just going to burn out. For me, it was about at the 5-week mark. So I had 5 dedicated weeks of studying, and then at the end of those 5 weeks was my Step 1 exam. And that was pretty good for me personally. I felt like I had enough time to review all the material that I learned during my preclinical years, and it also gave me enough time to do almost all of UWorld. So I ended up doing about like 93 or 94% of all the UWorld questions. I just had like 250 questions left that I just did not have enough time to get to, because the main reason I didn't have enough time to get to was in the beginning, I didn't do as many UWorld questions as I did towards the latter half, because I was mostly doing review. And also I had dedicated days where I would take practice exams. And obviously I wouldn't do UWorld questions after taking a whole practice exam, because I would just be like mentally exhausted. But I think it worked out with overall. I took a practice exam, I would say about once a week. Towards the end, it was about 1.5 to 2 per week. And towards the beginning, I did a lot more content review than questions. But overall, I think I ended up taking about 6 practice exams. So I ended up taking 4 of the NBMEs. Our school pays for 2, so I had to pay for the other 2. It's $60, just another way USMLE steals our money. And then I took, our school gives us a UWorld subscription, which is definitely the gold standard question bank. And I took the 2 UWorld simulations that they offer there as well. And I think those UWorld simulations are really good, especially if you're doing UWorld questions. So I took UWorld Sim 1. That was my second practice exam I ever took. And the reason I like the UWorld Sim 1s is because they don't just tell you whether you missed a question or not. They also give you explanations about the questions, which is super helpful because when taking the NBMEs, they just tell you if you got a question wrong, but they don't really give an in-depth explanation as to why you missed the question or why the other answers were incorrect, which UWorld does. And that's honestly the best way to review your practice exams, is to know not only what the right question is, but how come the other questions are wrong as well. Because that way, like, you're approaching a topic from multiple different angles. It's a great way to review material like that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna make a later video about like my specific study schedule, what resources I used, kind of more in depth and in detail. Right now, I just kind of wanted to freely discuss step 1 off the top of my mind while all my emotions and anger are fresh in my mind. Like, it kind of sucks that so much weight is placed on this one exam. Like, I feel like there's so much more that can define people and that can make great physicians besides, you know, how many multiple choice questions you get correct out of 280. Which I understand now why it's going pass-fail to some extent. Like, I think I would have enjoyed step 1 being pass-fail, but at the same time, I appreciate that my score is still going to be scored because, I mean, otherwise it is hard to differentiate applicants without a step 1 score. And anyways, a lot more weight is going to be placed on the step 2 examination if step 1 is pass-fail. And I can't think of like a better system off the top of my head than like a standard examination thing for application committees to review. But like, man, there's so much stress associated with step 1. Like, I can't even begin to describe it. Like, there were definitely times when I felt so down and possibly even depressed, to be honest. And I'm just sharing it with you all just to be completely honest. Like, I did not have a glorious time during this dedicated period, and I wasn't always strict with my schedule. One of the things that I actually want to share is I did not make like a minute by minute schedule planning out my entire dedicated period because I knew that there was going to be off days, and I knew that based off of the performance of my practice exams, I would want to tailor what content I review based off of my weaknesses. So basically, I made a schedule for each week after I finished a practice test. So like after my first practice test, I saw that I performed pretty poorly on GI and heme lymph. So for that next week, I kind of focused my studies on those 2 subjects so that I could see that my scores in those 2 subjects would increase on the next practice test. And if I had like made a completely detailed study schedule going into dedicated, like that wouldn't be optimal for me because I wouldn't know beforehand what subjects I'm weak in. And that was kind of revealed as I took my practice tests. And I kind of recommend for most people to do it that way because no one knows like what they're weak in. And it's good to kind of plan out your study schedule week by week rather than like planning out every single second what subject you're going to review. And just to give a quick recap about my main study materials that I used first aid, I used sketchy. I did not actually watch any Boards and Beyond because I had finished the entire Boards and Beyond videos during my preclinical years. So I felt like I didn't need to watch Boards and Beyond again. Like, that's just way too many resources. Like, there is a thing called resource overload. So I just wanted to stick to like Pathoma, first aid, sketchy, and I didn't actually watch the sketchy videos. I would do the review cards and I would just like quickly tap through them just to make sure that like I saw all of the pharmacology and all of the microbiology one more time before step 1. And then of course I used UWorld and Amboss and USMLE RX. So UWorld was like my main test question practice bank. Like that's how I measured how well I was progressing. And then I used Amboss and RX on the side in order to patch up my weaker subjects. So for example, when I found out after my first practice test that I did poorly on GI and Heme, I would select those questions in Amboss and RX, and I would do them kind of over and over again, the questions that I had unused, until I saw that my scores were going up. And then I would switch over to UWorld and see how much I actually learned and whether my UWorld scores were increasing in those subjects as well. And it was pretty nice having those 3 question banks because I always had unused questions to use. I'm not a huge fan of doing missed questions because I feel like to some extent you've subconsciously seen those questions before. So you might kind of know what the right answer is because you've seen the question before. For the most part, I always like doing unused questions first so that you see material that you've never seen before or ask in a different way. But yeah, this video is probably getting too long. I mean, I could go on for hours about how much I hated and did not enjoy this dedicated step period, but I'm just so happy and so glad it's over. And now we get a 2-week break before starting 3rd year of medical school, which is crazy. I can't believe I'm gonna be a 3rd year medical student. And my first rotation is actually neurology. And I'm honestly so excited to like actually work with patients and physicians and be in the hospital. Because over the past 2 years, we've just been reading textbooks and attending lectures. And while that's fun, like I don't want to do that for my whole life. And there's only so much studying you can do, you know, before you actually get some clinical experience in. And I can't wait to take you all along of this journey that I'm about to embark on. Hopefully it's awesome. I can't wait to learn a lot and to actually interact with patients. For all of you that are going to be preparing for step 1 in the future, honestly, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you can learn something from my own experience, and I plan on, of course, sharing a little bit more in detail about how I prepared for step 1 to hopefully help all of you medical students out there that might be preparing for this B7 exam as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay strong, stay healthy, and as always, Dattebayo.